Looks like.
Right? No.
I even remember. Deep in the door.
Well, it is 7 o'clock. I'd like to welcome you all to the meeting of bigger government, more taxes. So I think that's kind of like. Not that we're trying to isolate the council, but we want to make sure there's enough seats, so we asked our village council members to sit up here so that you guys could have ample seating. They've heard this presentation in one incarnation or another. We're gonna jump right in, gonna cover some things and then just answer some questions, that kind of stuff, so. Michigan, our lovely structure of local government, we have 3 types of local government: townships, villages, and cities. There are general law townships, which Sherman and Broomfield are. Charter townships, Union Township. Villages, you have general law. Those are incorporated under the General Law Village Act, like the Village of Shepherd. And then you have home rule villages, like the Village of Lake Isabel, that have their own charter. Cities, you got home rule cities, 5th class cities, 4th class cities, and special charter cities. The only special charter city in our great state is on an island. Back on an island. The General Law Village Act, Public Act 3 of 1895 requires you to have a president, trustees. Council can be 6 trustees, staggered terms. Limits of taxation, 12.5 for general operations, 5 for streets, 2.5 for cemeteries. That's not what we are. We're a home rule village. This is what our forefathers decided was the best course of action back in the 1990s, was to become a home rule village. So there is flexibility in how the village council is comprised. We have a 7-member council. 4 of them get elected every 2 years, and then the other 3 get elected 2 years after that. They serve 4-year terms. Amongst those 7, they elect their own village president. Dave Torgerson is here. Our own village clerk and our own village treasurer. Their own president pro temp. Flexibility on whether or not you have to have additional public hearings. Our charter does, so we do that. And there's a maximum of 20 mills, but it can be capped in your local charter, which our taxes are capped in our charter. Types of cities. Unless we suddenly become Mackinac Island, we're not going to worry about that. 5th class, 4th class, home rule. So in 1980, all 4th class cities were deemed to become home rule cities. Our state has this weird, 5th class, 4th class, and then they never did a 3rd, 2nd, or 1st. All cities have to have a charter. 5th class cities and home rule cities by now are legally the same thing under the law. The only thing that differentiates them at this point in time is what the population was at the time of incorporation. So a 5th class city has a population of between 750 and 2,000. If you are incorporating from a village to a 5th class city, you do not have to meet any density requirement. Home rule cities, 2,000 plus population and 500 people per square mile. For Lake Isabella, our 2020 census is 1,829 people. So that would make us eligible to become a 5th class city. We have 4.5 square miles of incorporated territory. 1.25 of that is water. And this is an important point because those thresholds in the law are really not likely to change at any point in time. And if the community wants us to move forward with this process, this is kind of the window of opportunity we have, because if we wait potentially until after the next census, there's a real possibility that we may be at 2,100, 2,200. So you wouldn't meet that density requirement to go as a home rule city. So you would be shut out until 2040 if the community wanted to pursue incorporation, really any time during the 2030 to 2040 window. So that was one of the things that prompted us to start looking at this, as this is, one of those things that we have a window of opportunity now that we're not gonna be able to revisit potentially for another 15 years. What does that look like in terms of your taxes in your community? these are all the taxes that we currently pay. Your village operating right now with heavily rollback represents about 2.67% of the taxes you pay if you're not, if you're homestead. So, in terms of all the things that we pay for on your tax bill, trust me, we pay a lot of taxes. Not a lot of it comes here, less than 3%. We also have the lake restoration millage that the voters in the community supported a couple of years ago. And then we also have our fire assessment. But we have a lot of other things that we're paying for, especially at the county level. Like 6.61 mils of general operations, your medical facility, your parks, your commission on aging, your IRI, those type of things. Now, just for illustrative purposes, where is that? Mackinac City, but it's not Mackinac City. It is the village of Mackinac City. In addition to the village of Mackinac City, we have the village of Cass City and the city of the village of Douglas. And I bring this up because one of the things that we've had, I think, probably the most amount of questions about is what does being a city mean? In, you know, Romeo and Juliet, what's in a name? That which we call a rose would smell the same by any other name. And the point of that is, regardless of whether we're a city or a village, it doesn't change the character of our community. It doesn't change the things that we value. It doesn't change the things that we put in our charter. It really just is a different type of government, but it doesn't change the core things that make Lake Isabella what it is. There are only 3 mandated services we have to pick up if we were to incorporate as a city: assessing and board of review, billing and collecting taxes, and elections. Now, with respect to those, we already do our own summer tax billing, so we would need to pick up winter. Up until 2012, we did our own elections in this building here without issue until the state said villages can't do their own elections. So realistically, in terms of the mandated services we have to pick up, it's not a huge jump for us to be able to do those 3 things. 2 of them we already do or have done. But how much would those things cost? Well, assessing typically is done on a contract basis, number of parcels times a specific dollar amount. So right now, the current going rate in our area is about $15 a parcel. We have about 2,300 parcels in the village. That's about $40,000. To do another billing, you're looking at another $2,500 roughly in cost to do that second billing. And then elections, we would be mandated to do state, federal, county elections. So you'd be looking at 25 to 30 in those big odd number or even numbered years, lesser amounts and odd numbers because there aren't regular elections in that cycle. They'd be special elections. They would have to be paid for by whoever's requesting them. We'd also likely need to consider a part-time position to help with the added costs of billing and tax collections. A half full-time employee, roughly 25,000 by the time you figure in benefits, not benefits, SSI, FICA, Medicare, those type of things, payroll expenses. We would definitely look to do assessing through a contract position similar to what both townships currently do. Now, our operating millage is 1 mil and it's rolled back to about 0.8. You also pay 1 mil rolled back to your township of about 0.98. If we were to incorporate as a city and have a 2 mil cap in our charter, that would bring an additional $142,000 roughly a year. That would offset the added cost of about $82,500. Since we would be collecting taxes for other units, we would also collect a 1% admin fee on those collections. That would bring in about $25,000 a year. All told, you're looking at 1 mil for us brings in about 118,000. Our current this year, 2025, tax capture is about 94,000. 94,000 is the taxes you pay to this building here for the operations we do here. 2 mils, there's your 142. So you're looking at a general fund impact of about $84,000. There are 3 main areas that when we talked about this at the village council level, that we said, you know, those are funds that could be invested back into this community here. And those 3 areas that were talked about were lake restoration efforts, local street maintenance, and policing. And this was done prior to losing our sheriff's patrol. Those are the three and the main service areas that we look at as our organization, the things that are within our wheelhouse that we would want to look at investing those back into our community. Other points to think about in that, your elections would be here. You have full-time staff, we're open 5 days a week. You have a better online services, you have uniform assessing services. That's really an important one. And right now, we have a very unique situation in my time here where both townships have the same assessor. That has historically not been the case. And as we've seen some pretty wide discrepancy in how property is assessed throughout the community. But more importantly, if you do assessing, you have to have a board review, which would be made up by only Lake Isabella residents. So if you don't like your values, you don't like those things, it's entirely controlled by the board of review here in the village. It also gives you full political control over the community. As a village, we are still part of the township, which is why you pay township taxes to Sherman or Broomfield Township. Reduces dual taxation, reduces that layer of government, ensures the assessing services. Those are really the selling points when this was discussed at the village council level. They said, you know, this is something that we want to present to our community and something we think has value to pursue based on this window of opportunity before us. The process is pretty straightforward. It's a lengthy one because it requires multiple elections, but it's governed by the State Boundary Commission. We have to get petitions. We have to have a map created, which we've done both of those. The next step would be based on our population, we would need to get 100 signatures of registered voters in support of Cityhood. So we've not moved to that step in the process yet. We wanted to have these meetings before we do that. But then once you have your petitions, they're submitted to the State Boundary Commission and a public hearing is scheduled for between 60 and 220 days after the filing. So yeah, it's not a quick process. There's a hearing after that. 30 days are provided for stakeholders to give comments before the hearing. Both the village and the township are allotted time to address the petition and present the case to the State Boundary Commission. The village is the most recently incorporated community in the state of Michigan, done in 1998. This is literally the letter from the State Boundary Commission to that group of the residents back in this was probably 96 by then, or 95. Please find your closed response to questions of June 6, 1995. So, the Boundary Commission will ask, why is incorporation necessary or desirable? What services do you intend to provide? What's the impact on the community and the townships? What would be the impact if denied? Now, the law does require a clause in there that says division of assets. Assets and liabilities of the township infected shall be divided into the date of incorporation. Broomfield Township, Sherman Township right there. The village is roughly 45% of their SEV, and Broomfield 47% in Sherman. Both townships have been sent letters, and we've had good meetings with Sherman Township about this, making it very clear we have no interest in this. We're not looking to take any of their fund balance. We're not looking to do anything of that nature. We see this as something that is valuable for our community. We don't want to do it at the detriment of our neighbors because we want to work with them and get along with them in the future. Because we realize that there is going to be a financial hit to our townships. Yes, they will have less expense in terms of assessing costs, but overall the net impact is probably going to be about $75,000 between the two in terms of what they lose after they paid for in terms of assessing and those type of services. So we're not trying to make it any harder on them by trying to raise their fund balance. That's not our interest, not what we want to do. The fire department is the other concern. We've had conversations with them. We've let them know that we sent a letter in October reaffirming our desire to keep our current relationship with the fire department. So we have no desire, any interest to change anything like that. We would still look to do 1 mil for the fire tax as everybody pays right now. We want no change in regard to the fire department, rescue services, any of that. The State Boundary Commission would use the following criteria: population, need for services, general effect on the community in relationship to any land use plans. And then they send you, again, this is from our case back in 95, here's the summary of the proceedings and here's their final order. So after they do that, if they say, yes, you can move forward with Cityhood, the next step would be electing a 9-member charter commission. When we incorporate as a village, we have a 7-member commission. Cities are 9. You must reside in the area to be incorporated, must be nominated by at least 20 registered voters. And you would be tasked as a charter commission member to draft the city charter. The hope that we would have is that the village charter that's been in place since 1998 and amended periodically would be more than sufficient to basically plug and play, because it meets all of the criteria needed under the city incorporation process. The the charter commission would have 90 days from its first meeting to draft the charter and then send it off for legal review. Must be published in full before the election to ratify. So here's the first crack at the ballot box from the voters. Is this something you want to do, yay or nay? Also at that election, you would be electing any of the officers that would be elected under the city charter at that point in time. So nothing can happen without a vote of the people. Nothing can be done without multiple hearings with the state and opportunity for comments. But some of the questions we received so far, so I can just get those out of the way. Does becoming a city mean we have to put in sewers, get a water system, get a post office, or have a police department? No, you don't have to do any of that. None of that whatsoever. Does becoming a city mean the lake will become public? Well, got some bad news for you folks, but the lake itself is already public. The privacy element of the lake is because the LIPUA controls the launch sites. That wouldn't change. It's private property that has no bearing on whether we're a village or a city. Are we looking to expand our boundaries if we incorporate as a city? Nope. We're not looking to grab any land out of the townships. We're not looking to do anything that would be detrimental towards their continued ability to function. Does becoming a city mean we're going to have marijuana shops, street lights, and strip malls? Again, we can already do all of those things. We just choose not to. Whether or not we allow marijuana-based businesses is entirely done through local ordinance. You can do it as a village, city, township, doesn't matter. Street lights, we've tried to limit those. Same with stoplights, strip malls. Those are zoning functions, and one of the two main things that drove our forefathers to incorporate were zoning and roads. So we've been zoned as a community since 1998. What does becoming a city mean for my taxes and property values? Most important one here to end on. Taking on assessing is one of those 3 functions that would be required, including that board of review of your residents. So you have control over that. All of the discussions that have been held at the council level that I have presented to them focus on a tax neutral change of going from 1 to 2 mills, while also not seeking a renewal of our road patrol millage to fund public safety services. So we are not looking to increase your taxes. We are not looking to get the tax cap lifted. We're simply looking to reinvest all your tax dollars into our community. Because again, as you look at that number right there, 94,000 is what we're going to collect this year on property taxes for the community. You would have 2 tax bills. You go from 3 to 2. So your summer bill, you would have your village operating, the lake restoration, the fire millage, your county operating, your state education tax, your school operating, 3 Chippewa Hills debt issues, and in the winter, county IRIDE, county medical facility, county parks, county commission on aging, county recycling fee, your ISD operating, your ISD special ed, and your ISD vocational ed. Cuts you from 3 to 2. In summary, the lengthy process, take at least a couple of years, because you have those elections in there, and you can only do elections May, August, and November in Michigan. We're hoping that it would be tax neutral or even a tax savings to our residents when you factor in the non-renewal of that road patrol millage. Not to, say that we're better or not, but I believe having an office open 5 days a week with local options in your community would be better service delivery to our residents. Total local control. I think that's an important one. As you think about what you're seeing in our neighboring townships in terms of sewer projects, those type of things. If you are in the township, that is a conversation still on the table. That they could potentially look at doing that infrastructure in their township, which we would then have to deal with when they approached us. This gives you total local control over that. And also, based on their census, this might be the opportunity to do it until 2040. With that, I'm gonna remind everybody that we've got at least 2 more of these planned in August, the 12th and 14th. The council also has opportunities at their meeting next Tuesday and in August for public comment questions, specifically on the agenda about this, where we're gonna recap some of the discussion from tonight, the questions that come in. All this is live streamed on our YouTube channel. We record these and we upload them. That link is right on our webpage, right on the front page. So with that, I will happily begin answering questions until I run out of water. Yes, ma'am.
Can we get a speed limit sign in front of our house?
Where's your house?
You know where it is. Birdie Drive.
Birdie?
Birdie, you're the one that said that they went 78 miles an hour.
It was just a street.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. It's still a stop sign.
Yeah.
We've watched lots of people go
Yeah.
through that intersection and
Yeah.
down into the water.
And with, so we're a July 1 fiscal year, which is another one of those things in the charter. So we just started our fiscal year. One of the things we put in there was to buy another one of the radar display signs. So we can move that around as well. So we can definitely do a speed limit sign there. We can even do the speed limit radar sign to maybe let people know we're going too fast. If they care. Suggestion. It's a cool suggestion right now, Can't hurt.
So you brought up fire, police, and those kind of things.
Yep.
So, yes, you talked about not oversharing.
Yep.
Does not oversharing get to say yay or nay, or how does that work?
Potentially, because we have a contractual relationship with them. But if they say nay, they're losing out on a significant chunk of their funding. Jeff is a former fire board member. I think he could speak to that if you want to address that.
Yeah, I currently served on the Sherman Township Board until November of last year. Finally stepping back after about 25 years of service here, but when it comes to those fire board and or the township themselves, Nottawa Township takes in money from Sherman Township, Nottawa Township, Gilmore, and Coldwater. The biggest amount of money they take in is from Sherman Township. So if Sherman Township, I have no reason to understand why they would even think about saying, no, we don't want to do a contract with you because they would lose a huge chunk of the change that finances their entire fire department. Can't say that they could do it.
Yeah.
Would make absolutely no sense to do it.
Right.
I know working with Fire Chief Livermore and being on the fire board there for a while too. He has all the interest in the world of maintaining what we've got now. There were some former issues with Gilmore was talking about pulling out. So they started realizing how much money or where they would have to have them getting their fire services from, and it's cheaper to stay with that over Sherman, so they did, so. But overall, no, there's not the money in my pocket, so that would not be an issue.
So in total transparency, they theoretically could, but the
Right,
conversations we've had with that entity do not just believe that's the direction they want to go or would be interested in going. So,
How about police?
well, police is a great subject to talk about.
Bears.
Yeah, it's fantastic, so. At the village council meeting next Tuesday, the council will be presented with, a contract to have a relationship with the city of Mount Pleasant that would allow us to schedule dedicated patrols periodically. That's great. It's at 3 times the cost of what we were paying the county. So that greatly limits our ability to lean into that on a regular, consistent basis. It's something that we can definitely lean into when we need to. But policing is a huge problem and it's countywide, you know, and whether you're a village or a city, doesn't matter, you can create your own police department. Village of Shepherd has their own police department, Lakeview does. You know, we have seriously been looking at this issue since before the vote last year, quite frankly, because we were concerned this was an outcome that we may face. And we have exhausted every option available to us short of starting our own police department. We don't want that overhead. We'd like to avoid that liability. There's no point to duplicate services if we could find a willing dance partner that we can afford. Now, by the time we go through this process, the county may present that issue on the ballot again for funding and it may become moot to the point where they can staff it at some level. Yeah, as of right now, our agreement with the city is gonna be the best option we can give you, short of investing significant resources into starting our own department. Boy, that just left it.
So, notes, and it's like $250 an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, my question, and it's not, the answer isn't in these notes. When does the clock start? And anytime we ask for the service for some specific.
Yeah, so when we
or is it a
schedule-
phone call from some
We
citizen?
would have to schedule in at least 3-hour blocks. So if we did a 3-hour, 4-hour, whatever, we would be charged that rate for the full 4 hours, you know, 3 hours, whatever it is, $2.50 an hour. It's not gonna be something that if we have a nuisance complaint, they can just run out here and respond to. It's gotta be within that scheduling block to meet what's going on at their department. Which is a huge change because we did have that supplemental agreement with the sheriff's department that they would respond more frequently out here just because they were out here more often, that kind of stuff that, you know, with the road patrol being gone, you know, we had an incident over 4th of July weekend where there was a noise complaint issue out at Marty Point and there were 2 state troopers on duty and they don't respond to do with local ordinances, so. You know, those are issues that we are trying to navigate now in a sheriffless world. Yeah. Pete.
Now, what was the projected yearly outflow of tax money that went to the townships that we could incorporate as a city?
Yeah, so our taxable value in Lake Isabella for 2025 is $118 million change. 1 mil is that number divided by 1,000. So your outflow to the townships collectively between the two is about $118,000 of taxes that our residents are paying to the townships and getting assessing elections and board review for. You know, access to a cemetery and a library in Sherman Township, but. Yeah.
Speaking of cemeteries, if you incorporate as a city, would you have to?
Nope.
Nope. Just continue the county? Or,
Yeah, I mean, they have resident and non-resident rates, you know, that type of deal. But not to go off into the weeds, but there's been on and off talk for 2 decades of doing a cemetery in the community. You know, we have property available in Lake Isabella North where that could feasibly be done. It just hasn't been something that our community said, yes, we want you to do a cemetery. And if you come to us and say, hey, we really want you to have a cemetery, then we can actually look at it, we've got the space to do it. You know, this is what your guys' priorities are for us, quite frankly, focus on. We only have staff of 2.5, but we do a lot.
well, you change,
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
if you change to a city, a municipality. What will the political structure look like? Are we gonna still have a council?
Yep.
Are we gonna have a mayor? Are we gonna?
Yeah, so we have a village president, which is the equivalent of a mayor. When you incorporate or you change your charter, that is when you get to set up your form of government. So Lake Isabella has the council and their form of government. The other option will be strong mayor. You're still gonna have the city commission of elected people. You have a village council of elected people right now. You're gonna have a clerk, you're gonna have a treasurer. None of those really fundamentally change. Elections are still nonpartisan. Literally the only difference between the fifth class and home rule city that we incorporate is in a fifth class city, you have to have at-large elections, not do it by district or ward. All of our elections are at-large anyway. So none of that changes, at all, quite frankly. But you do have to revote for who you want on your city commission then. It's not like because they're on the council now, they get to continue serving. You get to vote for a whole new slate and. Like when we incorporated in 98, the charter had in it that, the top 7 people elected. Will be your council members, and the 4 highest voting getting ones get the 4-year terms to start, and then the next 3 get the 2-year terms, so you get that staggering effect that we do right now, so. Be very similar with that. Yeah, go ahead.
So as far as like the DPW services, would that change?
Nope.
As far as like being contracted at all, nothing, okay.
Nope. No, and that, but we incorporated in 1998.
Yep.
And. Dave was around for that, Paul was around for that. I was a freshman, college, sophomore, college, Dave myself.
I work for DPW myself for the city most.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
know how it works pretty well, so.
But like our founding fathers, for lack of a better word, fathers and mothers, because it was men and women. You incorporate on a Tuesday. And you're expected to be the government on Wednesday. You have no fund balance, you have no facilities, you have no staff. It's like, what do you do? So those early years, 98, 99, 2000, 2001, it was a struggle. It was uphill, and part of the reason why we do the contracting is because that was the only card in our hand to play in 1998. We didn't have a fund balance to buy a bunch of equipment. We still don't buy a lot of equipment.
That's what I wasn't sure is how, if that would change at all as far as. If it would go from in-house to being outside contracted to owning equipment or versus.
No.
Okay.
No, really the only thing that's changed with that regard over the years is, the staffing abilities of that contracted partner. So we started with Wilcox Excavating, then we went to Mount Pleasant Excavating, and we've been with Malley for well over a decade now, and. Everybody's hurting their employees, so it's, things that we have to manage in that agreement with them, where we do more mowing now than we used to, those are things that we do. To continue to provide services, it's just, we're not gonna go out and build a whole DPW, right? There's not gonna be funds for that, we don't do parks, we don't have a water or sewer system. So there aren't those other revenue streams that you could have a DPW employee that's 25% from parks, 25% from water, you can't do that here, and we're not going to.
That was the other question is, cause like I know part of the lake is on a SCADA water system.
Yep, about 100 properties, give or take.
So I wasn't sure if that would expand or anything like that, or,
No,
and I know you made it clear on the sewer system, that wouldn't be anything possible.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, the county still owns and operates that system.
Okay.
They would desperately love for us to take it over. But it's not something that we have the staffing capabilities to, in our opinion, efficiently do.
okay,
We don't have, DPW staff that could do that responsibility, and. Knowing the finances of the system, it needs to be expanded to be financially self-sustaining.
right, and I know with like Eagle, with like Bullwater Lake, and everything that's going on is. Wanting to put them on, cause they're on our Mount Pleasant sewer system.
Yep.
And that was a concern with Lake Isabella turning into that. And that would be a really big expansion to get everybody on that, as far as that's concerned.
So in 2004, shortly after I was hired. Isabella County received 2% funding to do an exploratory study of out-county sewer systems, essentially. And the engineering firm gave them a recommendation of a system that did Beale City, Old Water Lake, and Wademan, and Lake Isabella as a separate system. And we've been approached at each turn between Nottawa and Sherman and Beale, if we have any interest in. We have no environmental red flags to say there's a reason to do it here. We test the lake all summer for E. coli. We don't have failing systems. We have newer, bigger platted lots, so they're not, you know, the hurdle you have in Waveman where you have the smaller lot, so. Until there's an environmental need, there's not gonna be a sewer. And we've even went back to the state and got the state and the health department to agree to additional permits. The airport, south end of the lake, so, I mean, they're satisfied with the work that we're doing, that what we're doing is not environmentally dangerous to the community.
Cause I know that like the lake community is set up for an entire sewer system as far as the layout for the lots and everything like that with the easements and everything, so. That was the biggest question I had.
Some of the plats are, some are not, so some of them have a
For the majority.
utility easement, but a lot of the original ones, like I live down in Bundy, it's not in front of my house.
Right.
North is, all on the south
Yeah.
part here.
That was my
Yeah.
biggest concern.
Great questions.
Could you review again, how fast are we growing? I mean,
So, yeah. So I'm gonna get out of this and I'll just take you to our website for a second. We are a growing community. So on our website, lakeisabellami.org. If you were to go to your government, we post all of our financial information online, all of our budget, all of our audits. So in the budget this year that was presented to the council and approved back last month, one of the things in the budget narrative talks about, this is our development history here. So, and you can't see that very well, but that blue bar there. Last year, we had 15 new home permits. Since the 2020 census, we've had almost 60 new homes built. When the 2020 census came out, they undercounted us by almost 50 homes. So that's when we look at that 2030 number and say, if we're looking at another 100+ homes actually getting counted accurately, are we gonna go over that 2250 mark if we wanted to do this in 5 or 6 years? Or are we gonna just squeak in just shy? And it's really too close to coming.
And that census year was COVID year.
I don't know if you remember
They
that,
didn't
but
do an accurate census.
right when lockdown happened, everybody got there, fill out your census for where you are right now, and it's like, no, fill it out for where you live. Because that census
Because it
also
messed
impacts like
everything up.
your liquor license abilities, you know, stuff like that, and for us, if you get over 2,000. That's your first multiplier on your Act 51 funding for your street, so you get a 10% bump for
And
that.
by the way, we had 1,000 homes in 2020, so that means less than 2 people per home.
Yeah,
That doesn't even make sense. And we went around and around
yeah,
with the
we
state government on that.
challenged the census and it was gonna cost 250,000 to do a recount. It's like,
Yeah, I
really?
was gonna say, is that because it's like, they're not permanent residences or?
Nope.
No, according to the census, we have less than 20% of our home stock that is seasonal or vacant in 2020.
Okay.
You know, and that's, I've lived out here since 2008.
Mhm.
Been with the village since 2004. I have seen the change in the community. I've seen a lot of those second homes become starter homes for families. And one of the things that we've talked about at this board level and at the planning commission level is, as we look at the housing market today, one of the biggest concerns we have is that housing affordability to bring new families in. Because that's one of the things that really has made Lake Isabella where it is today is, for the first time, I think in our history, you have people that say they're from Lake Isabella, that grew up here, where that certainly wasn't the case in the 70s and 80s and 90s for the most part. You know, becoming that type of community is something that we are very conscious of trying to figure out housing solutions that are affordable, that work for our community.
in the census that do that, is people that permanently live here or like, the
Yep.
lady in front of me is not from. Yeah.
Yeah, so- You know, you fill out your census with your address where you're at,
Oh,
you know,
oh,
how many are in your household, that kind of stuff, so. Like, if you go to the American Community Survey that they do, I think we're at 2,100 right now, is their estimate of.
alright, I am new here, my husband and I do, we've only been here
Yeah.
since March, so we're
Welcome.
not really familiar with like the zoning
Mhm.
practices as far as commercial property goes. You mentioned that the village could already put in, you know, strip clubs and what have you. if they
Strip
wanted.
malls, strip malls.
Wait a minute, who wants to start a strip club?
And that to this too. Because I don't know the zoning,
Yeah.
what's, you know, kind of how it's been here in the community, and my husband and I have not noticed any, you know, stores and restaurants and stuff. We enjoy going to Wegman, you know, to do a business like that, and that's one of the reasons we purchased property. Association. So my question is hypothetically, let's say I'm a business owner in the state of Michigan. And I hear that the village of Isabella wants to become a city. And I'm looking at the area and the demographics and the people that are here, as you would with a business. How much property is here that is vacant, that could be bought? From like Isabella Property Association, that's not being used, and who's to say that, you know? The council right now is saying, well, we don't want to allow this to happen, but could that change?
So,
And one correction, there's two entities. There's the Village of Lake Isabella.
Yeah.
And then there's the Property Owners Association, separate organizations.
so on our website, all of our ordinances are there, all of our zoning ordinances are there. And our zoning map is there. So the area in the.
Understand what you're saying, but what I'm thinking is, would it not be possible for the village and the Lake Association, the association to come together and work to say, you know, hey, there's all this vacant property that's sitting for years, nobody wants to buy. And I know behind where we live on the north side of the lake, there is a lot of it. So if I was gonna open up an antique store or a Dollar General or, you know, a nice restaurant, it doesn't have to be a bad thing.
So,
Business can start coming in here with this lake association saying, you know what, okay. You know, let's work with the village and we can sell these properties.
so
The next thing you know, we got traffic lights, sidewalks, street lamps.
we're not doing sidewalks.
But then our property values are all gonna go downward.
So,
Yes, our property taxes are gonna go up and then our property values are gonna sink. And I know that we moved here to retire. And part of the draw was that is the community of people that snowbird. They're not here. And they wanna be in this community. They bought property with their inheritances. Money is going to be, these properties are with the intention of leaving to their children. They don't wanna see their property values go in the toilet.
so a couple of things, the current village charter caps our taxes. We would fully anticipate that a city charter would do the same thing, so if your property values were to go down and your taxes are capped, your taxes would go down. But most of the commercial property in the village is along Coldwater Road, and most of that is outside of the LIPOA's coverage area. They only deal with the platted areas going back to the mid-90s, we were last plats. So along Coldwater Road, this side where the bank is, those would be things that the association has any type of involvement on. Across the street, they have none. They don't cover that area of the village. That's entirely up to us. The village has embraced for many, many years an economic development strategy that focuses on really one thing and one thing only. And you can find that right here in our core values on our village council page. Live here. You want to put a business in our community, fantastic. We'd love to have you. We'll make that space available as best we can. We'll work with you. But our bread and butter, because we have that tax cap, is we want people to live here. Because when it comes to our general operating fund, we get more per capita money for revenue sharing and streets than we do based on our tax millage. So we collect $200,000 a year in revenue sharing from the state of Michigan for our operations. We collect $94,000 a year in property taxes for our general operations. So our bank is making sure people live here. So we're not gonna do something that makes that unattractive for people to live here. And that's been, going back to that housing thing, one of the things that we have been seriously trying to figure out, along with everybody else, is how do you keep housing affordable to attract new families so that you're not driving up? I mean, a huge part of that is out of control, which is interest rates. You know, you have someone like the Wolf household here that's got a 3% mortgage. Apparently I found the house I'm gonna die in.
Yeah.
You know,
Same boat,
you know,
same boat.
not moving, so. Realizing that is a big thing, because also the cost of materials is another part of that component. But another unspoken part of that cost factor is. If we all go back in our DeLoreans to 2008, when the economy tanked. We lost a lot of builders, we lost a lot of plumbers, electricians, framers, those type of things. But we didn't just lose that generation or those people. We told people for a decade, don't go into this line of work. There aren't jobs here. There isn't a need for it. Go do all these other things. And now there is a demand for that. And we don't have people that can do those jobs. So there aren't people building spec homes in our market like there was 20 years ago, where we were seeing 35 new homes a year. Like we went like 30, 35, 40, 35, 30 over a 5-year stretch. Like we had this huge explosion around 2000. And all those builders are gone. You know, and the guys now are very selective. They can do big custom build homes, you know, so it is a struggle on that. But on the commercial front, you know, the lack of a sewer system is going to keep businesses out more than anything else, because you have to have that available land for your drain field. So like the restaurant is on a 3-acre parcel roughly. It's vacant.
Car wash.
You know, that takes a sewer system. You know, laundromat would take a sewer system. You know, Out of Bounds struggled for years to fully fill all the stores in that area, and then the strip mall over there at Sunset Plaza. And all of that really is driven through market analysis and market data that all these countries pay Experian and Esri and companies for your traffic on Coldwater Road, which is like 3,800 cars a day. So that's below what you're gonna see for a CVS or a Rite Aid, any type of business like that. Got Dollar General. Got choice of Dollar Generals. Proven.
And just a question.
Yeah.
So if we make this a city.
Yeah.
How much are taxes gonna go up? Don't lie to me.
Not-
Yeah.
Ruin. What is Betty?
He has, they haven't even given.
Y'all know where I live, I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, you gotta.
No, where do you live?
Where I live?
Yeah,
1070 Bundy.
where's that?
You're safe.
Oh, my yard.
It's on the other side of the lake? Okay.
Yeah, if you go down Bundy, it's just past Essex. If you go to the area where there's really nice houses, my wife refers to the Clampett looking house in the neighborhood.
I think it looks nice.
Yeah, appreciate that. Well, okay. I gotta replace both decks this year. Charlie?
And you look at this and you take it in respect to where we're at, out here in Lake Isabella. And, okay, we may have to add police patrol. Because we just want it, because when they put it out and they say they got police patrol, that keeps people out.
100%.
It helps. Okay, compare. Any of you guys lived in Mount Pleasant? It's more than double, 70 some mills. I mean, we got the bargain of the county out here. I mean, when you think of everything we got with our lake.
Yeah.
Our community, and that doggone hardware saves me a lot of trips.
Considering everything that we had happen in like 2014, 15, 16, as far as like break-ins and everything. But we also had frequent road patrol, so I don't know.
Yeah, we certainly are publicizing it. We have that, or are gonna have that agreement with the city for that, that to be out there. How often that's leaned into, you know, like with the sheriff's agreement, we don't only have on average 3 to 4 shifts a month, yeah, you know, but that visibility is what's out there. Yeah, assuming it's that tax neutral plan where we go from 1 to 2 in our charter. 22.37 in the summer, 8.2 in the winter. Which comes out to 30 and a half, 30, something like that, which is really pretty much where you're at right now, because some of these ain't rolled back yet, but. I mean, the whole premise of what we're trying to do is give you more services and not ask you to pay them. Like, that's literally what we're trying to do, folks.
I think one of the biggest benefits is the money that we pay right now, 1 mil that we pay to Sherman Township and the Broomfield Township. Last year, 4 years, I've been trying to Sherman Township forward. I can tell you how much was spent of that tax money that was collected from the village and back to the village.
Oh.
It's out of it. Not to say that they didn't want to spend it over here and do any of that stuff, but there were more needs for the city of, for Wademan, for the rest of the Sherman Township to do stuff that money was spent on that. If that's my major reason why I wanted to become a city, is that our taxes we're paying no longer go to Sherman or Broomfield. We'll stay here.
Stays here.
Yeah, and we can fund it the way we want to spend it. That is one of my biggest reasons why I become a city.
His question, Ron, question for me, you talked about the fact that the village does not want to go to Sherman Township or you give the name of the other one.
Broomfield,
Don't want to negotiate for any of the funds that they have.
No.
Wouldn't the people that have lived here for the last year or years already been paying into that fund and then they're not gonna see?
so that is,
I don't.
Yeah.
It's way over my
Yeah,
head, probably.
and that's why that's in the law. The law is written that way because it assumes, you know, that you've been contributing to this financial position of the township for X number of years. When you leave, they need to give you that as your walking away money. And that's the single biggest point of contention for any places that have incorporated from a village city, whether it's Douglas, Jonesville, Ovid. You know, is that, and at the end of the day, we want to maintain a good relationship with both of our townships. We want to maintain a good relationship with our fire department and keep doing business with them. It makes no sense to try and gut them, you know, pound foolish or penny wise and pound foolish in my opinion, because you're gonna create unending bitterness and resentment that isn't functional for any of us. Like, there are reasons why we think this is a good idea. None of those reasons are because we want to hurt the townships.
It's the same thing with Union Township, City of Mount Pleasant,
Yeah.
Saginaw Ship, everything. They all work together. So,
This is probably a scary change for a lot of people.
Sure.
I think if you give us straight out the biggest benefit of changing to a city, I think that's what they need to
Yeah.
hear mostly is the big benefits.
That big benefit is what I just said. It's,
Yeah.
we want to provide you services, whether it's policing, whether it's local streets, whether it's more in the lake. And not ask you to pay anything more than you're already paying. You know, like this year, last December, we did Birch Bay through the Joint Lake Restoration Committee, which is a third village, third the LIPOA, and third community members. You pay for it on your tax bill through us. We created this independent group to oversee it. This year, we're investing just short of $500,000 in the river. Holding cells under construction. If you look at our Facebook, we're a month away from the scheduled anticipated start date. I know George has been talking to people around there about their boats, so like. We are trying to invest as much as we can in our community at the most efficient way possible, quite frankly. Like that committee didn't go and hire engineers and consultants to do all of our permitting and all that kind of stuff. We've tried to do everything we can in-house to put every dollar possible back in.
And that would stay the same.
Yeah, and that's our philosophy. That's what we do.
Keep in mind also, any taxes we've ever raised here in the village, since we started, always know that. It was never just shoved down your throat, that you're the new tax, the bad, that's how we put that. So I don't see any reason in the world why that would change.
Yeah, like, but we have a tax cap in our chart. Like, it's not like we could say, you know, you don't wanna do this, we're gonna just go to 2 mills right now. No, we're 1 mill, we're capped, we're rolled back, you know. So, yeah,
Wouldn't it behoove the village though to, so we become a city, you will no longer be city manager, right? Or village manager, so you'll get a severance.
No, he'd be city
only if you
manager.
change your form of government. He's not going there.
Only, but we maintain the council
Yeah.
form.
Council manager, if that's what the charter commission determines is right, and the people vote for it. Yeah. No, I am not looking to get my $200 severance package from the city schools. For $112 from Traverse City.
From Sherman and 100 from Broomfield.
I'm a very happy resident of the village and have no desire or ambition to leave anytime soon, so. You know, and I'm just gonna speak personally here, like, it'd be a hell of a lot easier for me to not wanna present this to you guys, just because I know that. People online are gonna see city and get all scared about it and realize that, you know, it might not be popular with everybody. But I care about the place I live, and I truly genuinely feel that this is the best thing for us as a community moving forward, because. We're paying for services that we don't get right now. At least get the services you're paying for before you do anything else.
And this is our last reasonable chance to do it. Until 24th.
Yeah.
The key biggest benefit?
Yeah.
Give us the worst thing that,
The worst thing?
yeah, give us the bad. You got to.
Give you the bad, all right.
I can tell you, I don't get to vote on it.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't change, I mean,
I know, everything you guys do, we don't get to vote on
you're
it.
not a resident. Yeah. You know, and
6 months.
I
we
will
are.
get back to your point, you know, but that's also been a fundamental question that this council has dealt with over years when it came specifically to like road projects is. What is the equitable way to present this to the community? Is it at the ballot box or through a special assessment? And we've done both, but predominantly as we become more and more permanent resident and less seasonal, that's tilted heavily towards ballot box. At the expense of the 15 to 20% that are still seasonal and expensive. In terms of what would be the biggest negative I could see. We're gonna have to add a part-time staff position realistically, I think, to handle the workload. You know, this building is where you're gonna come to vote. If it's a big presidential election, you know, there may be a line, because this room is 1,200 square feet. So we may not have that space, and we designed this building so that this will all come out if we need to.
There's always the absentee ballot.
There's always absentee ballots, which is increasingly more and more what we're doing in this world. You know. There really isn't a ton, in my opinion, with the biggest risk, I would say, quite frankly, is. The charter commission is ultimately what's gonna decide what goes in that charter, those 9 people. So the risk you run is that group of 9, what stays in there that you don't like and vote down.
But isn't that currently how it is kind of?
So right now, our charter is set, you know. we
Right,
could-
what I'm saying though is, that's what's happening currently.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be any different, so it's not a change.
Mhm.
You know, I mean,
Yeah,
it
so
might
if
be
we-
different people, but it's gonna be the same process, you know, that's being done now.
Yeah, if we go down that road and, you know, you vote no, you know, we've focused our time and attention on that effort as opposed to other things from last year. You know, I really truly don't see a ton of negatives for our capabilities in terms of what we have to pick up based on what we've historically been able to do here. Adding the assessing and board review is the only thing outside of the wheelhouse that we haven't done before. And, you know, we have a fantastic relationship with the assessor right now. Yeah, we obviously solicit proposals, but I would highly recommend staying with our current assessor, so. Yeah, but
Speaking of voting, is it true that I might not understand, I watched it, council meeting video, YouTube video from them. Was posted. Is it only going to take 100 residents to vote this through?
it takes 100 residents to advance it to the state boundary commission.
And then,
And then you get to vote on, if the boundary commission holds their hearing and says, yes, we endorse moving forward. Then it's the total electorate.
okay, all right, that's what I was.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, you know, elections in Michigan are May, August, or November. Our general election is every other November. So one of the things that we would have to talk about here is, do we want to put the bill for a special election or something like that, or You know, do we, vote? That's why the process takes so long, quite frankly, is because you've got to have these different votes of your community saying, yes, we like what you're doing, yes, we're gonna move forward. No, we don't like what you're doing, you're gonna stop. So.
But the nice thing is the votes are here.
Well, the votes right now would be at the township.
Right, but once we get to a city, we're gonna be right here. We don't have to travel to Sherman, you don't have to travel to Broomfield. Then you find out you went to the wrong place.
And, you know. You can pay your taxes here as opposed to in a Dropbox. You know, you had a question.
Yeah, I guess I didn't, I thought that the county clerk would still handle all of the voting and all the rules that go with that, as well as the equipment and everything. There's a lot of education there. I was wrong. Someone new here will be appointed to be that clerk or elected.
So we have a village clerk. Jeff formerly was our village clerk. Both him and I, before we lost our right to do our own elections, both of us were certified by the Secretary of State to do elections.
And federal elections as well as state elections, we're all here.
Just local, we're here at that point. But
No.
you know, your only difference in that is, you know, you have to have you still have the same ballot deadlines, you still have all of that stuff. The 9-day early voting is done kind of collectively in our county now, you know, so we would be part of that collective to deal with the 9-day early voting stuff.
So is the answer, yes, we will have our own clerk?
Yeah, we already have our own clerk.
Okay, and all of that. All the equipment and everything would be under that clerk.
Correct, we would have to, so that's the other, we would need to purchase that equipment, so that would be, you know, that's really the only capital outlay, quite frankly, is buying that election equipment. You know, because everybody got their current round of equipment through the Help America Vote Act, which provided free stuff back in the day, but this building here had your first ballot in Isabella County that was not punch card. So, punch card, when I moved to Isabella County in 2004, I came from Gratiot County, which is what it is. But we had the nice fill-in ovals on your ballot. I go to vote for the first time in Isabella County, and here's your pin to poke the hole in the ballot. I'm thinking, this is like the hanging chads from Florida back in 2000, you know? But the first optical ballot in the county was the village council election held in this room. We used to have a thing go up on the wall. That's not all it is. No, as you. Oh,
Can I ask a couple questions for clarification for myself and for some of the other stuff I was asking? Okay, so. Really the biggest.
Can you stand up?
yeah,
Sure.
this is Joe Latte. He's one of our newest council members.
So
He's also new to the community.
I've been here just over 2 years now. My understanding is the largest benefit to becoming a city is that we get to keep our tax dollars in-house to provide services for our. Our residents. Is that correct?
That is the drum up beat for you guys for 4 months, 5
Right,
months.
right. Well, I know, I'm asking
Yeah.
for clarification for all of us and some of the questions that were asked, or direction, I should say. Can our taxes go up?
That's entirely subject to what goes in the charter.
Right,
So what we have proposed is that 2 mil cap.
right. So is that any different than we currently are doing?
So, no, because right now, to change that tax cap, you would have to have a charter amendment that the community would have to vote on anyway.
Right, and like I said, these are questions for myself and to clarify some of the stuff that you all were asking. Now, if we do become a city. We're looking at being tax neutral, meaning our taxes won't go up. But if we decide, let's say we decide in-house with, the community, and they say we want to have our own police department. We would probably have to do something, and then the taxes would possibly go up from there. Is that correct?
Potentially. So the way our current charter is structured is we have a 1 mil cap. And then we have the opportunity to present to the community dedicated millages for up to 12 years. Collectively, those can't go over 10 mils, I think.
Right.
So that is how we have a 3 mil for 12 years lake restoration fund. Because working with the association, we went to our community and said, we have a unique problem here. We have the power to tax. They don't. How can we make the lake something sustainable for all of us? So we partnered together, created the Lake Restoration Committee. So you as a community voted 70-30 to fund 3 mills for 12 years for lake restoration efforts. And that is a joint project that we have with the association. And we maintain all the financial transparencies of public funds on our website for you to look at anytime. Same with the sheriff's millage that went back to the people and we said, hey, we need to do, this is what we want to do. And you said yes, or 1/3 of a mill for 3 years, I think it was. The fire protection is the little oddball in there. Because we are a village, you are still part of your township. So our Sherman Township side pays 1 mill directly to Sherman Township on your, my guess is Winter Township bill. Our Broomfield side, we levy a 1 mill special assessment on that half of the village and then pay Sherman Township. And the reason you have to do that is the Michigan Constitution says taxes have to be levied in a uniform manner across the jurisdiction. So we can't create separate taxing districts and say this district here is paying 5, this district here is paying 3. Everybody has to pay the same taxes for the Constitution. So that's why we do the special assessment for that half of the village. So in the end, everyone's still paying 1 mill. There's just the middleman in the process, the fire department, but none of that structure would be anything I would recommend changing, and nobody has advocated for changing that structure.
Right, why I'm asking this though is because, the big question is why would we become a city?
Yeah.
And like I said, I know the answer to these, I'm not being sound ignorant about this, we've discussed them at meetings, I'm just trying to, get a little bit of clarification, so with some of the questions I've heard. So basically, nothing in general would change unless it was wanting to be changed by the community. Which is currently how it works for the most part. The biggest thing is we keep more tax dollars in our community, provide service for our community.
And you have control over your assessing.
Yeah, and so the only thing that immediately would make a tax difference would be if the assessments went up, which that currently happens now too.
Yeah. And quite candidly, if you don't like your assessor under that scenario, you can get a different assessor.
Right.
But assessing is pretty much a formulaic process where the state's gonna tell you, these are the things that go into determining that value.
Right.
So there isn't a lot of discrepancy on the assessing end of the equation. At least there shouldn't be, if they're doing it correctly.
All right, okay, well, thank you.
One other thing, if I can mention. And the council, Kim had mentioned we were in that 3-year contract with the sheriff for our patrol down here. So we were putting that on our taxes. They knew what was happening last year, that we probably wasn't gonna get that renewed at that point. They didn't charge you at all. If you look on your bill, you would not get the charge for the sheriff patrols under the contract because they knew we weren't gonna have it. That to me sets the council cares about what money they're taking and how they're spending it. They could have collected the money because it was under, you guys voted for it, we voted for it. They did. So to me, that just proves this current council right now knows what they're doing. They can hear about what kind of money they're collecting.
And we left it off your tax bill last year, and at the end, we collected it 1 of the 3 years for about $36,000, and we expended $56, which we covered that out of our general fund, because we didn't think that was fair to you as a community last year to be like, hey, we're gonna put this ballot on your tax bill, and we don't know if the county's gonna have a service for you in 4 months, so we're just gonna eat that cost. But
Will this impact our ability to apply for grants? Like, are we gonna be more eligible as a city versus a village or anything of that nature?
I would say nominally, there are some grant opportunities that are only city options, but the thing that impacts our grant ability more than anything else is our median income levels in the community, which put us far above a lot of any type of income-based grant. So many years ago, we had to propose a sewer system for the south end before the state would allow us to put more septic in there. And we got, it was a $4 million project, and we had a 1 million of it was grant money from the USDA potentially. But that was at a time when nobody had any money to do projects, so they were looking to get it out the door. You're not gonna have that opportunity now. I mean, I think Steel City system was 12 million-ish, give or take. And they had 3 million in grant money, maybe, and that, that's what we look at sewer and say, it's just such a financial detriment to cost of living in our community that unless there is an environmental need to do it, There's no reason that that should be anything. It just isn't.
Same thing with water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, he brought up the fact that if you were to need a police department or decide to get a police department, that would be assessed above the 2 mil cap,
It could potentially be, if that's what,
but that would be something that.
something we'd have to go back to the community, yeah. Yeah. You know, and I'll give you 1 second.
Sure.
You know, when we have looked at policing, there's actually a report on our website from 2019, 2020. And we looked at a lot of different like part-time models. So I don't know how familiar you are with Mecosta County, but Barrington had their own little kind of miniature department where it was people moonlighting from the sheriff's department and those type of things. And, you know, we looked at that as an option of something that potentially we could look into. From our standpoint, the biggest things that we worry about in terms of how that service is provided to our community is it done professionally and is it done consistent? You know, so one of the concerns in that model we had is, you know, when you're relying on people moonlighting from other departments, are your procedures in that department the same as what their 9 to 5 job procedures are? And if there's any discrepancy, where's that liability fall in terms of any type of incident in your community? You know, the models as we've looked at it in this latest round of trying to figure out policing. You know, we've looked at that, we've looked at, could we do a department with like 1 full-time and 1 part-time, you know? And even then, you're still not gonna have 24-hour coverage. The Village of Shepherd has 2 full-time police officers. They pay about $210,000 a year for their department. And they obviously don't have 24-hour coverage. You know, 2 guys working 40 hours a week is only 80 hours a week, not the full 24/7 side of the equation, so.
Get more security. I mean, being a city, I mean, you know, you got the POA's got any tools around.
Yeah.
You could probably put on a couple, just a show of security.
So one of the things that we've also, we've tried to do it in the past, and it's petered out just because there hasn't been a ton of support, was neighborhood watch.
Right.
You know, where it takes someone dedicated in the neighborhood to be that captain, to be the hub that information is going out to, and we've had that in a couple of spots, and we've struggled in other places and said, yeah, I'd love to do it, but I just don't want to be that guy, you know?
We try to bring that back.
Yeah, 100%.
Who used to pay for Booker to come out here, like he used to patrol?
So we paid for him to cover Broomfield for the last probably 3 years before he shut down. But Sherman Township side of the village was part of the township, so that's why he would always hang out in front of the association office, because that's in Sherman Township. You know, the township line is the gas station. On the other side of the lake, it's Lincoln, roughly, you know, so. Like you and I both live down in Broomfield.
Yep.
That's a marshal.
That's the mark, I mean, but, I mean, he's still an M-Pol certified officer.
Right.
You know. But, yes, ma'am, introduce.
Yeah, so first, I just want to say that I feel grateful that you guys are here doing what you're doing. I came to this meeting with an open mind, thinking, oh my goodness, people are gonna come in there and they're gonna be hollering at each other and blah, blah, I probably just leave, right? I commend for what you're doing for
Thank you.
our community. I appreciate it.
Like I said, welcome to the meeting at higher taxes and bigger government.
Been here 3 years. I never wanted to be anywhere else.
And I think I share that sentiment, like, you know, I raised a family here, like,
100%.
you know, my kids, we school of choice from the field, but they love living. You know, I'm from Breckenridge originally, and we take them back to my parents' house, and it's like, you know, I didn't grow up in a nice community like this, and I can have to speak ill of Breckenridge, but it was, you know, farm community out in, you know, good schools, great schools. Yes, ma'am.
Grew up in a wonderful community. I grew up in Troy, Michigan, and in Troy, they have their, they have a volunteer fire department. They don't pay for fire under the building, but you guys are doing a fine job.
Thank you.
They are out front too. They are always out front
Yeah.
of what's going on.
Yeah, we have a phenomenal fire department, we are eager to maintain a very good positive relationship with them, I mean, probably what, a third of the staff members live in the village that are on the squad right now, give or take, quarter to a third, so. Anything else? Thank you all for coming out. I know we only had this posted yesterday. Blame me, I was on vacation last week.
Oh, dear.
But we do have more meetings coming up. Tell your neighbors, come to our council meeting next Tuesday, because we're gonna just have an open forum part of the meeting, just like this as well, if they have questions. They're not gonna get the full Romeo and Juliet presentation, but. Open. Thank you guys for your time tonight. I appreciate you coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.